The golden stallion stood in the corral's center, magnificent, untamed, and entirely unbroken. Over the slats of the wooden fence, Clementine Ross pressed her bruised face, the pain but a distant memory after this morning's beating, which was for having splashed a water bucket, and watched silently as three grown men struggled in vain to break the magnificent creature that had wandered onto the Baxter Ranch just hours before. Jedediah Baxter, the cold-blooded ranch boss, cracked his whip with rage, his face crimson with rage. The stallion sprang onto its hind legs, plunging and kicking at anyone who dared to get near. Two ranch hands shuffled around him with ropes, cursing in their breath and dripping with sweat, but the horse was too fast, too smart. Whenever they drove him into a corner, he would make a dash to the other side of the corral, his yellow coat glinting in the blinding Arizona sun. Clementine rubbed her swollen lip and winced. She'd worked on this land for 3 years, since she'd lost her parents to fever. The Baxters were as cruel as they were bad. She slept in the stables, begged off the table scraps, and wore the same faded dress that stuck to her knees. She was 19, a shadow of a girl, her heart nearly broken. Then everything changed. The stallion abruptly reined back and cast his gaze in her direction. Their eyes met across the fence. Time suspended. In that single moment, Clementine felt a shift within her heart. A strange, subdued comprehension flashed between them. His eyes were not mere savagery. They were perceptive, knowing, as if he comprehended the hurt etched indelibly upon her soul. Jedediah noticed the shift. He glanced in the direction the stallion was staring, then turned to Clementine. A cold, threatening smile warped his weathered face. His cold, calculating wife, Martha, stepped out onto the porch, her arms folded firmly across her chest. She saw where he was gazing and raised an eyebrow. The stallion, quieter now, pawed the ground and held his eyes on Clementine, caring not a whit for the men who had struggled to lasso him. He was behaving in a manner they had never witnessed. It was as though he was waiting for her. Jedediah came, boots crunching in the dirt. Clementine edged back unconsciously, heart pounding. He only approached her thus when something awful was about to happen. "Girl," he said, spitting tobacco near her feet, "that horse has taken a liking to you." She lowered her eyes and kept silent. She'd learned to speak only when forced, and even then to keep it brief. The fresh bruises on her arms were a painful reminder of what happened when she didn't. Martha Baxter eyed her like she was inspecting livestock. "Jedediah, you're not seriously thinking—" But the stallion continued to pace the fence near Clementine, utterly uninterested in the men. He moved with the grace of a dancer, his rage subdued, focused only on her. Jedediah rubbed his chin, already counting dollar signs in his head. That horse was worth a fortune, if only he could break him. But his best men couldn't get close. Suddenly he turned to Clementine. "You're going in." Her head snapped up. "Mr. Baxter, I don't know anything about gentling horses." His hand lashed back toward the belt he had used to whip her. "You'll do as I tell you. That horse is famished for something from you, and I mean to find out what." Martha spat. "If that animal kills her, we lose our one free help." But Jedediah's greed had already won. He grabbed Clementine by the arm and dragged her toward the gate. The ranch hands backed away, uneasy. They knew what a wild stallion could do to a full-grown man, let alone a girl who barely reached his shoulder. "Please, Mr. Baxter," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I've never even ridden a tame horse." "That's exactly why this might be possible," he snapped. "You don't have any nasty habits to frighten him with. Animals sometimes sense that." Martha cried out, "She's worth more to us alive." But the gate creaked open already. The stallion turned his large head towards the sound, muscles flexed under his golden hide, his eyes sharp and vigilant. Horses around him remained stock still, as if they comprehended the gravity of the moment. The corral at once became a battle area. "Go on," Jedediah snarled, shoving Clementine in the center of her back. She lurched forward, and the stallion did shift, but not with menace. He approached her, slowly, warily, ears forward, head down. No fear, no threat, only curiosity. The ranch hands leaned in, astounded. Even Martha had stopped talking. When he was just 3 feet away from her, the stallion halted and lowered his head further, like in a bow. Clementine hesitantly reached out with her hand. She trembled, yet did not pull back. And then his soft muzzle fit into the hollow of her palm. A half-whispered gasp rippled through the group of men on guard. Clementine stroked his neck. His coat was silk. The stallion stood stock still, half-lidded eyes in what appeared to be sleep. "Break the spell," Jedediah said softly. "Now mount him. If he'll trust you, maybe you'll be able to ride him." Fear bloomed in her breast. "Mr. Baxter, I don't pay you to think." The stallion's head sprang up, his ears folded back at the shout. Clementine started, but instead of moving away, the horse stepped forward, positioning himself between her and Jedediah. Martha warned, "If she kills herself, we'll have Harper asking questions." But Jedediah's mind was racing. If he could train this stallion, he could break him, then sell girl and horse to the highest bidder. Ranchers would pay a small fortune for a couple like that. Clementine put her hands on the stallion's neck and whispered, "I'm as trapped as you are." The horse nuzzled her softly. She stroked his mane. Her arms shook, starved for years. Her first attempt failed. But how he didn't move. He waited. On the second try, she tossed her head over his back. Silence descended like a heavy blanket. The stallion did not buck. He did not rear. He simply walked, smoothing, gliding, as though he'd been waiting all his life for her to ride. For 10 glorious minutes, Clementine had known something she'd never known. Freedom. But Jedediah's eyes darkened. His wonder had turned to something else, resentment. "That's enough," he snapped. "Get down from there." The stallion arched warily, stepping forward between Clementine and the yelling man. Even Martha seemed nervous. Jedediah waved to the gate. "Open it. Let's see if she can manage him out in the open." "Don't be a damn fool," Martha spat. "If that horse is turned loose, we both lose him." But Jedediah only saw money. The gate creaked open. The stallion held his head high. His ears ran back and forth. He could smell the open range. Clementine felt it too, the shift in his form, the taste of freedom. And now, she had a choice. Hold on and risk it for the possibility of freedom. Or give up and be trapped forever. Comment below, what would you do? Because what Clementine did next would change everything. Clementine gripped the stallion's mane and pulled herself onto his back. Whatever dangers lay ahead of her, they could not be worse than another day of Jedediah Baxter's cruelty. The horse sensed her determination and, in one instantaneous motion, surged ahead into a deafening gallop. "Stop!" Jedediah shouted, keeping after them. "Return my horse!" But his shrieks were blown away on the wind. The stallion ran flat out over open range, his hooves thudding the earth beneath them. Clementine had never moved so swiftly, had never felt more alive. The wind tore through her unwashed hair, and for the first time since her parents' death, she was breathing. Behind them there was shouting distantly, Jedediah calling out to saddle the horses, to catch them, but the stallion wouldn't halt, undeterred. He seemed to take a path that only he could see, skillfully navigating the rocky desert terrain. Clementine gripped him tightly, believing in him completely. Finally, after what had seemed like hours, but must have been only a quarter of an hour or so, the stallion relaxed in the shade of a creek lined with cottonwoods. Lowering his head to the water, Clementine crept to her knees along the water's edge. In the water's mirror image, she hardly knew herself. A dirty-haired girl with a bruised face and eyes no longer empty, but filled with a spark of hope that was new and tentative. The stallion nudged her, softly asking, "What now? We can't go back, can we?" she breathed. He snorted gently, as if in agreement. And then the noise she feared. Horses' hooves, rapid, many. Jedediah's men were coming, and much sooner than she had expected. The stallion's head was raised, ears alert. Clementine sprang to her feet. There was no place to hide. The stallion had ridden hard, and Jedediah's men would be fresh and eager. The riders crested a hill nearby, their figures silhouetted against the horizon. Foremost among them was not just Jedediah, but another individual, Deputy Wade Harper. Though the others did not seem so thrilled, Harper did not look thrilled. His face was stern. When he learned of a girl on a runaway stallion riding across the desert, his heart fell. He had been watching the Baxter Ranch for months, accusing them of abuse, but never having enough to move in. "There they are," Jedediah shouted, spurring his horse on. "Round them up." But Harper raised a hand. "Wait, Baxter, I want to talk to her." Clementine remounted the stallion again hastily. He pricked up his ears, prepared to take off, but she knew there was nowhere to run. "Easy, Miss Ross," Harper said softly. "Nobody's going to hurt you." Jedediah growled. "She stole my horse." "Arrest that woman and have that beast back on my property." Harper spun around to confront him. "Your horse? That's interesting, because in territorial law, a feral horse belongs to the one who catches and claims it. And from what I can see, Miss Ross is the only one who's done that." The stallion rolled under Clementine's hold. She stroked his neck, trying to keep her calm. "She's my ward," Jedediah snapped. "She lives on my property, works for me. Everything she does, including catching that horse, is mine." Harper clenched his teeth. "I've had reports, Baxter. Reports that you don't treat her like a ward, but like a slave." He gazed directly at Clementine's battered face. "Those bruises tell a story." The ranch hands stirred uneasily. They had caught on, and the game was no longer a chase through the canyons, but a confrontation. Then Jedediah drew out his ace. With a snarl, he plunged into his saddlebag and produced a crumpled sheet of paper. "You want to talk legal? Her folks signed this. Bound her to me until she's 21. It's all there." Harper spread the paper, his smile unfolding. Clementine's heart dropped. She'd never seen this contract in her life, but it was something desperate dying parents of hers would have signed. "Still," Harper replied coldly, "even if that is real, that doesn't give you the right to beat her." "Look at her, Baxter. That's not farm labor. That's abuse." The stallion sprang into the air, catching Clementine's anxiety. She held hard to the rope as he pawed at the air and stamped loudly down, ready to spring away again. Then, Martha Baxter's voice broke in. "Jedediah, something you ought to know." Everyone turned to look at her as she climbed down, slowly, her hands trembling. That contract, it was for her father's doctor's bill, and it was paid, 2 years ago, by an anonymous donor. The air was still. "I kept accepting the money," she admitted, "and leading you to believe that she still owed us." Jedediah's face twisted, first from confusion, then anger, and finally fear. Clementine stared at Martha, paralyzed. She had been free. For 2 years, Harper stepped forward, his hand on his gun. "Miss Ross," he said firmly, "you are free to go. And Mr. Baxter, you're under arrest for false imprisonment and assault." But Jedediah did not want to lose. He spurred his horse, charging at Clementine. The stallion reared a third time, its hooves glinting. Jedediah pulled back just in time, nigh trampled. That was when Clementine made her final decision. She bent forward and spoke softly. "Take us home, boy, wherever that is." And the stallion took off, faster than ever before, galloping off into the unknown, with Clementine bound for a future no one could foresee, but that was all her own. Deputy Harper refused to acquiesce. He just smiled. In his wake, the jingle of handcuffs echoed as Jedediah Baxter was finally brought to justice. 6 months on, travelers across the Arizona Territory whispered of a golden stallion and the girl upon him, ghostly visions who led the lost back to their way. Clementine had found her liberty, her mission, and the stallion had found his mate. They operated the open range together, two hearts who had freed each other from lives of pain and confinement. Martha used the borrowed payments to buy a peaceful house in town, feeling guilty. Jedediah served 2 years of territorial prison time, still a broken man who never bought another horse in his life. And Deputy Harper was appointed sheriff, recognized far and wide as a man who protected those who could not protect themselves. The desert had bred legend upon legend, but this one, this was a legend of freedom. Now click the video in your screen, because the next story has something you cannot rationalize, only feel, and when it's done, you won't be the same.